Whether we want to admit it or not, the militaries of the world are some of the most powerful entities out there, and for good reason. That reason being that they love nothing more than to go and build the biggest and most powerful weapons and vehicles that they can parade around, to show that they can take down enemies and even nations if they wanted to. Over the many decades of modern creation, all sorts of insane and powerful vehicles have been made, and some truly boggle the mind. So allow us to show you the 12 biggest and most insane military vehicles in the world. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 12, US M1150, aka the Shredder. Let's start out with one of the biggest dangers on the battlefield that every soldier has to be mindful of: mines. Mines have been used for basically 100 plus years and are even more deadly now than they were back then due to their ability to do even more focused or more explosive damage via armaments. Crossing a minefield is a literal no-go, so thus the United States made a machine that was nicknamed the Shredder because of how it looks and takes care of the mines in its wake. What it will do is twofold. First off, it can go and launch a missile full of C4 into an area and then blow up any mines that just so happen to be nearby. But for a more delicate approach, the Shredder can use its plow to dig up dirt and thus clear a minefield in no time flat. This device can turn a minefield upside down in about a minute, making it much safer for soldiers who need to cross it. And thus, while it may be over the top, it is a vital military machine. Number 11, Jobaria Defense Systems Multiple Cradle Launcher. Rocket launchers are easily one of the most used inventions over the last several decades. They're simple to use, devastating, and easy to produce if you know what to do, and the next step up from that were the cradle launchers that would go and house mini rocket launchers onto one base. Now, the next evolution from that is the Jobaria Defense Systems Multiple Cradle Launcher, a vehicle that is in fact the largest rocket launcher in the world today, as well as the most versatile. This is because 4 different cradles are put under the Oshkosh truck and allowed to not just be driven, but maneuver in place in order to go and lock on to enemy targets. That means the truck can literally pull in, have the rockets launch, and then be gone in no time flat. Within 2 minutes, it can launch over 200 rockets and then drive away to reload. Number 10, MZKT 79221. This massive 16-wheeler transport vehicle is much more than a basic ride for parts and weapons. It is actually pretty mobile. 6 of the wheels on each side are able to turn, allowing greater mobility for those who drive it and need to get it somewhere. Usually, this vehicle is used to transport missiles. And no, not missiles like you would find on planes. We are talking the kind of world-ending missiles that go to various silos. Which is why they need this transport, because the missiles in question can very easily weigh over 80 tons, and yet this 16-wheeler doesn't even flinch at that. Plus, when it does arrive at the silo, it can turn its body into a crane to lower the missile into its resting place. Number 9, M3 Amphibious Rig. A big problem that militaries of the world often face is getting things from land to sea and back without much wasted motion. The M3 Amphibious Rig is the answer to that problem in many ways, because this transporter can go and transform itself from a land vehicle to a water vehicle in just seconds. What's more, it can carry over 30 tons, which means it can go and deliver things like supplies, troops, and even a tank to an island location, drop it off, and then power itself right back when no other vehicles needed. Plus, if you needed a quick bridge, you could just line up a few of these together and just drive across the top of them, making it even more useful as a vehicle. Number 8, Tupolev Tu-160, aka the Swan. When it comes to the Tupolev Tu-160, the Russians not only went and made a supersonic warbird, they made the biggest supersonic warbird out there. In fact, it is so massive that it holds not 1, not 2, not 10, but 46 world records. That's not something that you see every day. You would think that this plane's massive size would limit its speed, right? Wrong. It can go over 1,300 miles per hour and climb almost 10,000 miles into the air. Plus, it can wield or lift over 45 tons of armaments. This plane can truly do it all, and the Russians love to boast about that. Number 7, Navy LCACI. If you look at the Navy LCAC, you're not going to see your typical kind of ship, rather you're going to see a hovercraft. That's right, this is a massive hovercraft that is being used by the US Navy among others. The UK also had a version for this commercial travel, believe it or not. This vehicle is only 87 feet long despite looking way bigger, and yet it can go and transport over 68 tons of stuff to any location that needs to be traveled to by water. Then it'll run on the land like it's nothing, all while going fast at 48 miles per hour. But if you think this is the only kind of hovercraft in use by the military, you'd be very wrong on that. And guess who made it bigger and, well, arguably better? Number 6. Zuber Class LCAC. Yep, the Russians, you guessed it. And this one is also the world's biggest air cushion craft, aka the world's largest hovercraft at 187 feet. The vehicle isn't just bigger, it's got a lot more power behind it. Mainly because the fans that are pushing it forward comes from bombers. It also has a missile launcher to protect it and its cargo. Number 5. DARPA Captive Air Amphibious Transporter. This next vehicle is a prototype, but it is one that has a lot of potential. This special transport vehicle doesn't use hovercraft tech to get the job done. It uses very special treads to not just move on land, but literally swim across the water. It can do so at a speed of 33 miles per hour, and it is aiming to be used to transport cargo and people to difficult places to reach. Plus, with its smaller size, it can get to harder to reach places that only have a small opening to get through. Again, it is a prototype at present, but if it's able to become more than that, it could definitely be a useful thing for the military. Number 4. Gerald R. Ford Class Aircraft Carrier. When you are an aircraft carrier that costs a country $13 billion in production costs, you better be more than just another ship in the water. This aircraft carrier definitely qualifies as that, mainly because it's such a massive vehicle that it can house basically an army in terms of personnel and vehicles. Its length allows any number of planes to land on it without issue, and that says nothing of the armament that were put on board to protect it and the crew. Number 3. C-5M Super Galaxy. In regards to planes that are meant to be carriers for something, the more you can carry, the more valuable you are. As such, the C-5M Super Galaxy is the power lifter of the US planes out there. Why? Because it can lift over 127,000 tons of cargo within its body. You can fit 6 helicopters in this thing, house over 300 soldiers, or any other menagerie of people and vehicles. This thing was built to lug things around, and it definitely does that, which is why the US loves to make these vehicles, because they can do so much. Number 2. Char-2C. Tanks become a major player on the world stage by World War I, and they've gotten pretty big over the years. But ironically, the biggest ever was built by France in 1917. Meet the Char-2C, a tank that was 33 feet long and over 13 feet tall. So why don't we see tanks of this size around anymore? Because advancements in anti-tank technology made making tanks like these very much unfeasible because they could be taken out too easily, which just goes to show that in some cases bigger is not always better. Number 1. Kalinin K7. Keeping it going with the retro vehicles, we are taking a look at the Kalinin K7, a massive propeller plane made by, well, you guessed it, the Russians. The men behind this had a dual purpose for this vehicle though. They felt that it could be a bomber in times of war, yes, but also a passenger plane, given its gigantic size and frame. What happened to it? Well, it was supposed to go 145 miles per hour in the air, but when it failed to reach that, the project was ultimately scrapped. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the vehicles that the military have made that are just so over the top it's scary? Which of these vehicles do you personally feel are the most powerful or the most over the top? Which ones do you think are just so overpowered it's insane? Do you think that the military is already trying to top these constructions? How do you think they'll do it? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you next time on our channel.